Hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Do you ever feel like you're in a lose-lose situation? That whatever you do, it's not going to end well? Adam here, and this hypnosis session is about escaping that learned helplessness feeling that you can't do anything right to a feeling that you've got nothing to lose. And the client I was working with was in a very, very high-powered, influential position, but because of the politics of the role that they were in, they felt that their hands were tied, that they were restricted in terms of the level of impact, but also that they were entirely dependent on any kind of progression based on one person and their opinions. And that made them feel that whatever they did was outside of their control, and that felt very disempowering. But when I was working with this client, we looked at it in a different way, that if it is the case that they can't do anything right, then rather than it being a case where they're guaranteed to fail, that can actually be liberating because it now means that they have nothing to lose. And that nothing to lose attitude is very, very empowering, because whatever happens, you can't be worse off than you've already guessed that you're going to be anyway. And I remember my very first job, and it was my very first boss in a radio station. He told me about how he bought a house when he was very young, in his early 20s, and the house doubled in value within a few years. And he told me that gave him a sense that if anything at all wasn't to his liking where he worked, he knew that he had about 3 or 4 years worth of money to not work if he didn't need to, still pay the bills, and then find something that worked for him. And it gave him an attitude of not tolerating any crap, what he called a fuck you attitude. And I use that word because it's emotive for a reason. He felt that he could say those words to anyone that disrespected him or didn't value his work. And what was interesting is that when he continued that story, he said, and I was 21, 22 at the time when I had this job, he said, guess how many times I've had to actually use that line and just kind of quit on the spot? And he said he never had. But the willingness to do it emboldened him. It gave him a level of courage. So it's that idea, that element of energy, of feeling that you don't care what other people say or do, you're going to do the thing that aligns with your value system, is that energy of having nothing to lose. So this hypnosis session takes that essence and factors it into someone that instead of feeling like they were tethered and their hands were tied and they were restricted and restrained, at the very end of the session, and I could see it was all over their facial expressions, they felt liberated. They felt that they had permission to do the things that they'd been wanting to do all this time, but didn't think they were allowed. And that's a crucial distinction. So I want you to think, where in your life currently do you feel restricted or held back or restrained in some way? And what would it feel like to feel like you have absolutely nothing to lose in that area? And what would be the consequence of acting in accordance with that energy, with that intensity of feeling that you don't really care about other people's opinions? And what tends to happen is that people that really embody that energy, nothing bad happens. Most of the time, people see them as being courageous and being almost having that ability to speak truth to power, and it's seen as very noble and confident. So actually, people end up holding back and becoming a bit of a yes person and just nodding and doing what they're told to do and not really doing what they feel that they can do. And in turn, they're never really appreciated for the talents that nobody sees. So if you can connect with this idea, you might get some real value from this session. And I'd encourage you to find a quiet, comfortable place, the kind of place where you're not going to be distracted or disturbed. Relax and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that feeling of pure relaxation. And as you exhale, feel a sense of release. A release of any expectations, any restrictions, any pressures. Breathing in that resourceful feeling of relaxation and exhaling any tension, stress or worries, any uncertainties. Just feel it leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it. Each breath taking you deeper and deeper relaxed. And the slower you breathe, the deeper you breathe. And the deeper you breathe, the more resourceful you feel. And the longer you exhale, the more you release. And the more you release, the more freer you feel. Like those restraints and limitations and restrictions are just falling off you. Like your hands were tied, and now those ropes are falling down by your side. And as you breathe in and breathe out, I want you to calculate just how much effort it has taken to hold yourself back. Not physically, but mentally. Think of all of that effort with the monitoring, the self-editing, the scenario playing, the calculating of consequences, that quiet tension of wondering, how will this be received? Is this enough? And what if you don't need to push that away? I want you to feel that right here, right now, there is nothing that needs to be fixed and no problem that needs to be solved. Just notice how tired that restraint feels. I want you to imagine a scenario where you have something to do and you voluntarily, albeit for good reason, impede yourself. How difficult would it be to be a waiter with one hand tied behind your back? And how difficult would it be to be a taxi driver with your eyes closed half of the time? I want you to get a sense that all of this restraint and all of this holding you back may have contributed to a cycle, a self-fulfilling prophecy. By holding yourself back, you fall below expectations. Those expectations are then creating communication of frustration. That frustration is perceived as disapproval. So you hold back even more. What if it feels like you're in a no-win situation? That whatever you do is never enough. If you speak up, you're crossing a line. And if you don't speak up, you're not doing your job. Feel that conflict. Feel that restraint. Like a juggler that's handcuffed. And how good would it feel to take those handcuffs off? To release the limiter, to access 100% of your capabilities. So as you breathe again, deeper than before, allow your body to settle. And for the next few moments, there's no need for permission and no need for approval, and you don't need to be careful. Nothing bad happens when you stop holding yourself together. As your body relaxes, your imagination awakens. And I want you to imagine a door, a large door, a closed door. And behind this door is the version of you that's been playing it safe. The version of you that's been holding back, trying to get it right, and trying not to get it wrong. Trying to preserve something that, if you're really honest, already feels fragile. But what if that strategy hasn't protected you, but in fact, just slowed you down? And when you realize this strategy has been impeding you, not helping you, the door unlocks all on its own. You don't have to force it. I want you to get a sense that strategies expire the very moment they stop working. And if you feel that this strategy of playing it safe wasn't working anyway, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. So allow that thought to land like a seed planted deep in your subconscious mind. Not as words, not as affirmations, but as a deep, accepted truth. That if holding back hasn't improved your position, then you have nothing left to protect. And what if that creates liberation? That something profound happens when that seed takes root. Because when there's nothing left to protect, then there's nothing left to fear. These no-win situations are paralyzing, but nothing to lose situations are liberating. They return you to instinct, to decisiveness, to speed, integrity, and truth. No longer having to play games or second guessing, and no longer managing perception, instead expressing judgment. And what if that's where influence actually comes from? And what if this unleashes a particular energy within you, immune to what people think and what people say? What if we can refine this? It's not defiance and rage, not rebellion and not carelessness. It's knowing yourself enough that enables you to quietly say, "Fuck you," to the status quo. That voice inside you that stops pretending, stops shrinking, stops second guessing yourself just to stay comfortable and safe. And that fuck you is not directed at anyone. It's a knowing within you. And in that moment, you stop asking, "Will this be okay?" and start operating from, "This is what I see. This is what I recommend. And this is what I'll own." And just notice how your body responds to that. That position of strength, of certainty, of fearlessness. Suddenly your posture changes. Your mannerisms change. The shoulders drop, the chest opens, the breath deepens. Because self-trust is not a feeling. It's a decision to back yourself 100%. And what if you allow this identity to form clearly? That from this moment on, you are someone who acts from authorship and autonomy, not permission. You don't wait to be fully trusted. Your clarity and your integrity creates trust. And you don't need certainty. Your movement generates momentum. You don't protect your future by being careful. You shape it by being fully expressed. And you know people like this already. Don't mind ruffling some feathers, speaking their mind, speaking truth to power, doing what needs to be done and saying what needs to be said. And this is who you really are. And when you fully unleash that part, you stop holding back, your thinking sharpens, your timing improves, and your presence strengthens. Because what if the real limitation was never external, but just the belief that playing it safe and being restrained was safety? But that belief is gone now, for good reason, because it was never true and never useful. But now let's look into the future. Imagine a full-length mirror right beside that door. Behind the door was the restrained version of you. But through the mirror is the future version of you with that attitude, that fuck you energy. Doing what needs to be done and saying what needs to be said. And I want you to see that future version of you in the very next situation where you would normally hesitate or hold back. See yourself arriving differently, not louder, not aggressive, but something different. It comes across in your tone of voice, your facial expressions, your body language. It's an element of an edge. You speak sooner, you recommend clearly, you move with decisiveness, urgency, and notice the difference in how people respond. Not because you demand influence, but because you embody conviction. And deep down you know that no matter how this game plays out, and even if this path that you're on ends, it ends with you, with your integrity intact. No regret, no self-betrayal, no wondering what if. And that's the real freedom. That's what means you have nothing to lose. It either works out or it doesn't. But you got to be you, unfiltered and unrestrained. And as you see that future version of you in that mirror, see where it takes you. Some doors may close, but many more will open. Other people will notice how you move, how you operate, your observations, your solutions. And as you see that future version of you, you realize that you don't need this to work in order to trust yourself. That you can trust yourself already and act in accordance with that trust. And what if that's the edge? What if that's the liberation? What if that's the calm, unshakable, unrestrained version of you with nothing to lose and nothing to prove? You don't need validation. You validate yourself. You are fully unleashed. And if your unconscious mind is ready to activate this version of you and leave behind that restrained version of you, second guessing and holding back, let me know by nodding your head. And very soon I will count from 1 to 10. But it will be this new version of you that awakens. The old version of you can remain behind that door. Not imprisoned, just not required right now. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Connect and calibrate into the here and the now. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8. Open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10. Wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.